Today, we're going to do something pretty ambitious. We're diving into 4,000 years of ancient history to look for a hidden pattern, a kind of master plan that shaped the entire ancient world. I mean, think about it. When you look back at all those ancient civilizations, does it just feel like one chaotic mess? A bunch of wars, a few inventions, some kings and queens? Basically a story with no real plot? Or what if there's something else going on? What if there's a predictable sequence, a kind of blueprints that societies from Mesopotamia all the way to Rome seem to follow as they grew? Well, that's the big idea we're digging into today. So, here it is. This is our blueprint. We're going to see how civilizations get started with resources, how they scale up, connect with each other through new tech and trade, and this is the cool part, how they transform when things get tough. Okay, first up, let's build the foundation. How did the very first massive human societies even get off the ground? Turns out it all starts with one simple but incredibly powerful ingredient. And that secret ingredient is water. What's so amazing is that you see this pattern repeat all over the ancient world. You've got Mesopotamia with the Tigris and Euphrates, Egypt with the Nile, and the Indus Valley with, you guessed it, the Indus River. These rivers were like life support systems, providing the fertile land you need for farming, which meant more food, bigger populations, and eventually the very first cities. But building a city wasn't the end of the story. The next step in our blueprint was a huge leap in scale. You go from the city-state, think of a place like Uruk in Mesopotamia, powerful but basically on its own, to something completely different, the territorial empire. A guy named Sargon of Akkad created the first one, conquering a bunch of cities and forcing them all under one central government. This was an absolute game changer. So how in the world do you manage a massive empire with all these different people? You need rules, lots of them. And this quote from Hammurabi's Code in Babylon just nails it. This wasn't just a simple list of don'ts. No, it was this complex legal system designed to hold the empire together and prove that the king's power was all about creating justice and order. All right, so now we have empires. But for a long time, they were still kind of living in their own separate worlds. The next part of the blueprint is all about how these isolated worlds started to smash into each other and connect. And the key idea here is something called cultural diffusion. It sounds fancy, but it's a really simple concept with enormous consequences. It's just the idea that when someone invents something cool in one place, like, say, the alphabet, it doesn't just stay there. It spreads through trade or war, and it totally changes every single society it touches. You can really boil down the engine of all this connection to three main forces. First, you've got these huge technological shifts, like when we figured out how to use iron instead of bronze. Second, you have these massive trade networks popping up. And third, you have good old-fashioned conquest. And you see these engines firing on all cylinders everywhere. The Iron Age gives new empires like the Assyrians a massive military advantage. You have Phoenician sailors spreading their revolutionary alphabet all over the Mediterranean. Alexander the Great's armies literally march Greek culture all the way into Asia. And then you get the Silk Road, this incredible superhighway for goods but also for ideas and religions, connecting East and West like never before. Now we get to the final and maybe the most important piece of our blueprint. We all know the classic story, right? Great empires rise, and then they have a spectacular, fiery collapse. But what if that's not really the whole story? We've all heard this date, 476 CE. It's the year the last Roman emperor in the West was kicked out. The end of an era. The lights go out across Europe, or so the story goes. But did it really? Was it really like someone just flipped a switch and Rome was gone? That just seems a little too simple, right? What if fall isn't even the right word for what happened? Because when you look closer, you see it wasn't just one thing. Rome was dealing with a perfect storm of problems over hundreds of years. The economy was a mess, there was constant pressure on its borders, the politics were totally unstable, and then you have this massive cultural earthquake with the rise of Christianity. These forces didn't just break the empire, they completely reshaped it. And this is the really crucial point. The Western Roman Empire didn't just vanish. Yeah, the political structure fell apart, but its language, its laws, its religion, its culture, all that stuff transformed and continued, and it actually became the foundation for the kingdoms of medieval Europe. It was a metamorphosis, not an extinction. So let's run through our blueprint one more time. You start with resources, you scale up your organization, you innovate and connect through new tech, And finally, you adapt and transform when you face a crisis. You don't just disappear. This blueprint is a pretty powerful way to make sense of the past, but it also leaves us with a really fascinating question for our own time. Maybe we've traded rivers for the internet and the Iron Age for the information age, but those core patterns, scaling up, connecting, and transforming, they're still happening right now. So what do you think our blueprint looks like today?